All right, let's get this stream started early. Salute to everybody and everybody that's joining me today. Again, this is the Peaceful Lives channel where we focus on all important issues concerning men, women, current trends that's going on in society. And we have to talk about peace is the new wealth for men. That's what I titled this stream today. And I put a quote in there, famous quote in there by Thomas Sowell. There are no solutions, there are only trade offs. Because every man, every woman has to decide which pathway or what solution is best for their life. Because I'll be the first to tell you, I do not have the answers, especially when we're dealing with a world with so much more distractions, something that many of us didn't grow up in this world that we live in now. We people live 24/7 with this thing in their face, and they make many of the decisions are influenced by people who we don't know who they are or what they're really living in their real lives, and they're influencing the minds of people, especially in relationships, especially women who are easily influenced by many social trends and the opinions of people that speak to their feelings. So the typical marriage and relationships that we have today have so many more distractions than people had in years of the past before social media. Now, today, a relationship is under tremendous stress. Social media, um, the environment, friends, many things that go on in life and relationships in general create so many stresses that can cause about the destruction of relationships. Um, it can undermine things. And I hear a lot of people talk about things in the traditional sense, um, what things used to be, and still operate, especially men, operate on the old system of traditional rules, values, and norms, and morals, and whatever else. But you operating on the old system when everybody else is operating on the new system, which is selfishness, self-preservation, focus on thyself. That's what we tell women, and um, especially women, modern women growing up today. We have them trained to focus primarily on themselves. So we're constantly asking men to abide by the old rules or the old social contract of society when they have to face a more modern woman, a modern society, a different environment, a complete gynocracy if you live in the West, something that's focused primarily on what is best for women. And that creates a problem for many men. And I always ask the fundamental question because you have to look at things from a structural level too. And when I hear many of the men, especially the religious conservatives, and salute to these guys if they, I agree with many of the things that they say, and many of them have been married for 20 plus years and they have more of a spiritual religious undertones. I see a lot of the brothers too that still come from a biblical spiritual perspective, and I respect that. But I don't see the success in the church or in the religious spectrum any different from that out here in the secular world. There's no difference between what's going on in that church and what's going on here in the secular world. But I always ask the fundamental question, and that's where we get back into talking about marriages and all the other stuff. And the fundamental questions is, have they changed the laws, any laws yet? What's going on, my brother? Logos, salute to you, man. I always ask that fundamental question because that's a structural question. That's a very important question. Laws do matter. Policy matters. It matters. And if you create a situation where an institution was based upon, or a relationship was based upon a time period where there was social, what, family, social, community, religious, state. There were so many different controls that controlled people's moral conduct and moral behavior. Now we're in a system in a society where they're practically shame, and now we live in a shameless environment where there's only accountability really for men, real accountability in mass. I mean, women, of course, if they delete somebody, there's accountability. You know, it's a situation where we only have one side. Like if you listen to many of these podcasts in these situations, you listen to the conversation. It's a very one-sided conversation, and it's based purely on the color purple narrative. This idea of this abusive, the neglectful. Like I give you an example, right? Because they're not really talking about structural changes. So I was listening, I was watching through some of the podcasts, and all these women, they get on TV, they get online, and they talk about all these different things. Um, and I'll give you an example of this, right? This young lady, what's this? I don't know how she pronounced her name. Linda Nye. I put a link in the description. Sorry for butchering your name, but how I knew my marriage was over, right? Now, I'm gonna let you guys play it. She's going to describe everything that's wrong with her husband or soon to be ex-husband, but she's not going to describe any of her actions that create this environment of resentment, that create this environment of chaos. She's not going to say what she did to him. She's going to say what he did to her and how it made her feel. Because right now she's trying him in the court of public opinion, where everybody's going to jump on him and gang him up. And the women, and they're going to talk. She's setting the foundation for divorce, which is to transform this man into a monster. I call this the monsterization of the man you're about to divorce, right? So she's creating this narrative in the court of public opinion where she's going to transition this man into a monster. He's neglectful. He's abandoning. He's disrespectful. But she's never going to tell you what she did to him. She's going to only tell you about what he did to her and how she made him feel. She probably has a long list that she takes a notebook of every transgression that she feels he's doing to her. If you listen to the story, and it's fascinating to hear.
Story time on how I knew that my marriage was over for sure. All right, so 7 years ago, my husband's mother was murdered. Unfortunately, she met a guy in the alley and he stabbed her to death. Rest in peace, Mom. We love you so much and we miss you so much. Um, but on March 28th of 2025, that's the day that she had died 7 years ago, we had a memorial. And I made these cute little fans, but me and my husband were kind of like, on the out. So I didn't really do too much as far as like planning or anything. He just set it up with all his family and friends to meet at the location where she was murdered. And I made I got some popsicle sticks and got her face, a picture of her face, like cardboard cutout. They sell it on Amazon, but I just glued it onto the popsicle stick and it was like a little fan. So that's all I did. Usually, if we was on the good, we would have been known what restaurant we was going to. But anyway, I'm getting off topic. So we all meet up at this spot. My husband is still a little distant. People notice that me and him are not really how we usually are, but we're not there for that, so it doesn't matter. My cousin comes, his family comes. We're all together. We have the kids with us and everything. Probably about 20 people show up, and we eventually we all walk into the alley, and everybody says something in memory of her. I read a gospel song, "Be Encouraged, no matter what's going on." I read that, and then my husband spoke, and this is how I knew They say like when like when you know you're going to be with somebody, and when you know that you're not going to be with somebody, when you know, you know. So my husband proceeds to show love and thankfulness for every single person that was out there. And when I'm like the only one left, actually me and my cousin were the only ones left, he kind of looks around me and then proceeds to be like, yeah, and that's it. And then my cousin, who's highly offended because me and my husband have been together for 12 years. My cousin was actually married to my husband's cousin for 12 years. They're divorced probably like 4 years now. They've been divorced. So he's like in the family. He know my husband before I knew him. So my cousin, after my husband looks around and avoids me and my cousin goes, and so my husband goes, yeah, and cousin Cliff, you know, thank you so much. You know, you always there for us. Da, 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 da. So we're all like waiting for him to say something about me, but he doesn't. And I knew it before my cousin. I knew before my cousin coughed. I felt it. The thing that went across my mind was, oh, this is the moment. This is the moment that they talk about where you know, you know. There is no way. And granted, it wasn't about me, but he went around to every single, even the kids. He said something about the kids, his kids, our best friend's kids, our kids. He said something about every single person. And I'm just thinking in my head, like, oh my gosh, this is the moment that they talk about. Because my husband, the husband that God has chosen for me, he'd be like, babe, come here. Yes, we here, you know, thank you guys. Everybody know Mal, like he, and I'm not saying I needed praises or anything like that, but he went around to everybody. And maybe it might not make sense to you guys, but it's that feeling where you know, you know. So it was for me. But talking to our family members and stuff, they were all like, we thought it was very, very odd. Like immediately we knew like what's going on with them two. Like something is happening. Like he's not going to say nothing about Mal. Like she's been here the whole time. Like everybody was like his best friend and his best friend's wife. They were pissed. I didn't even have to say anything to them. They were pissed. And as we were leaving, he started to, when we got in the car, he started to argue with me. He was mad that I was upset about it. I didn't even say anything to him. I was talking to our cousin, the one that was married to my cousin. I was talking to her and she was like, what's going on, cuz? Like, why you didn't? I'm like, girl, I think this man really want to leave me. And so she's like, oh my gosh, but we're whispering, we're talking off to the side. Everybody's having their own private conversations. That's what me and her is talking about. So when we got in the car, he asked, what were you and cuz talking about? And I was like, yeah, we were just talking about, and he was like, that was not the time. That was not the place. You're so inappropriate. You don't even know how to control yourself. You don't know how to have discernment and read the room. It wasn't about you. It wasn't about you. I'm like, this is crazy. So yeah, story time on how I knew that my marriage was about to be over. That was on March 28th of this year. He's been indifferent with me since about December of last year. But yeah, that's it.
Fascinating, right?
All right, let's talk about the Trump economic boom. Joining us now, Newt Gingrich, former speaker.
Stop. Go on back.
On how I knew that my marriage was.
So, in any event, have you heard her say anything that she did that contributed to the end of the marriage, right? And the first thing she did was invoke the spirit, right? When people start invoking, making it a spiritual matter, I find it fascinating too, right? Like anywhere in the Bible, that would be a grounds for divorce. And that's what I want to show what these religious conservatives don't realize is that you're dealing with the Christian feminists in many instances. You said, by the way, when she says the moment they talked about it, whose day? Her feminine divorce friends. Oh man. Remember when I did that stream, right? You know, they like to invoke the church. Faith talkers, sinful walkers, an epidemic of religious gaslighting and virtue signaling. And the more you notice how she invoked religion, spiritual, or this is not the man God picked for me, or whatever else. And this is a fundamental flaw. And a lot of people think that, okay, it's better in the church, right? But divorce is easy because there's no hardship that's going to come to her because she's still able to get the state. The state is going to command her husband to provide her with the standard of living that she's accustomed to after 10, 12 years of marriage. So there's no downside to her to divorce her husband. She's going to have the sisterhood. She's going to have an army of simps. She's going to have everybody, the state there for her. And that's the fundamental problem. So we have to ask. So when you listen to that conversation, right, add her back to the stream, right? And what about any of this is spiritual? What if any of this is spiritual? She invokes the Lord's name. She invokes his name, right? While she's talking about divorcing her husband, none of the grounds that she's talked about are a part of the church, which is why these guys can say whatever they want to say. But nothing changes truly until you change the laws, right? What about the laws? The laws are never going to change. They're not going to change anything, right? Because here's a married woman talking about divorcing her husband in the court of public opinion, right? Listen to the fact. Listen to her. Get it right about here.
We're the only ones left. He kind of looks around me and then proceeds to be like, yeah,
Look how happy she is.
And then my cousin, who's highly offended because me and my husband have been together for 12 years.
12
my
years.
cousin was actually married to my husband's cousin for 12 years. They're divorced probably like 4 years now. They've been divorced. So he's like in the family. He known my husband before I knew him. So my cousin, after my husband looks around and avoids me and my cousin goes, and so my husband.
So why is she so excited? You know why she's so excited? Because the laws favor her. There's no consequence. There's no consequence. There's no consequence. Salute to my brother Top Gun, man. Welcome to the stream, man. You know, this is a structural legal problem. So with social media now, again, I call this the foundation. This is the character assassination. This is the character assassination part of divorce. Controlling public opinion, controlling the opinions of him. By the time he gets to the divorce table, he is the biggest monster out here. He's a monster. By the time what she's doing is she's building a coalition. She's building a coalition because they don't go at it by themselves. They build an army to take the guy out. First, they start telling their family members and friends about all of the things that he did that she does not like. She starts chipping away at his character, creating this monster. Doug Christie's going through that right now. And she starts creating this idea of a degenerate type guy. Somebody who abandons her, mistreats her. He's awful. He's terrible. You know, he doesn't give her the attention or the recognition or respect that she would. And she uses God's name. She uses God's name. And they say, well, this is how you know this is not the husband that God sent me. It's supposed to be for me. You know, so by the time she gets to the point where she goes to court, she's got simps lined up. She's got a coalition of women. She's got all her family on her side. She has created a whole, catalog of what he did to her. And she has all of her friends to back it up. Oh, yeah, he was this, he was that. The guy could be the nicest guy on the planet. But nothing in this conversation is going to say what she did to him. What were her misdeeds? What were her sins? She will never say anything about whether she was a good wife. Maybe she neglected him physically, mentally, emotionally. Maybe she's a pain in the ass. She's never going to say any of that. And the court of public opinion, including many of the men out here, are going to take her at her word. So anytime that marriage fails, regardless of the man's actions, it is 100% the man's fault. Regardless if he could be the most honorable man out there. It's automatically assumed in this culture that it's the man's fault, unless the woman is absolutely egregious. Look at the Johnny Depp situation. Everybody thought Johnny Depp was an abuser until that lawsuit went through and discovered what a monster she was. Because there's the social and public persona, and then there's the things that happen behind closed doors. There's some men that like that too. So the foundation of building and creating a narrative is easy when you have a community and people in general with feminists that's been programmed with the color purple narrative in the first place. The idea of Mr. and Harpo and the abused, wicked, demonic, because even you hear them all the time when they talk about men, is based on the premise that these men are abusers. These men are horrible men. When the guy could probably just be fed up from a lack of appreciation, a lack of respect, a lack of reciprocation, unruly, disrespectful. What's going on, my brother Ren? Salute to you, man. Welcome to the chat. Welcome, man, to the stream. So they're not going to talk about what was done to the man. They're just going to talk about his behaviors, not why he's upset and angry or why he feels a certain type of way. She don't want to talk about that because, again, she has already made up her mind. She's going to divorce her husband. She's going to divorce her husband. And she just needs the coalition. They always go with a coalition. Character assassination first. It's like a slow process. Women plan for divorce maybe a year or two in advance. And it's a slow process of deteriorating the man's character. One brick, one chip at a time, just knock the bricks out of his foundation. And social media has made it easier. That's why you see the women take to social media now. And that's why when you go into a church, you see a coalition of these women, Christian feminists. And, exactly. So men can't have feelings in the court of public opinion. So when we hear these commentators, these guys, so the man is basically handicapped. You listen to how she throws him underneath the bus.
Ben goes, yeah, and cousin Cliff, thank you so much. You're always there for us. So we're all like waiting for him to say something about me, but he doesn't. And I knew it before my cousin. Before my cousin coughed, I felt it. The thing that went across my mind was, oh, this is the moment. This is the moment that they talk about where there is no way. And granted, it wasn't about me, but he went around to every single even the kids. He said something about the kids, his kids, our best friend's kids, our kids. He said something about every single person. And I'm just thinking in my head, like, oh my gosh, this is the moment that they talk about. Because my husband, the husband that God has chosen for me, he'd be like, babe, come here. Yes.
What did she just say? My husband, the husband that God has chosen for me. That's what they do. That's why you can't trust the church sometime now. Let me remove that from the stream and add her back. You see that card she played? She played the religious card. Let's continue on.
we here, you know, thank you guys. Everybody know Mal, like he, and I'm not saying I needed praises or anything like that, but he went around to everybody. And maybe it might not make sense to you guys, but it's that feeling where you know. So it was for me. But talking to our family members and stuff, they were all like, we thought it was very, very odd. Like immediately we knew like what's going on with them two. Like something is happening. Like he's not going to say nothing about Mal. Like she's been here the whole time. Like everybody was like his best friend and his best friend's wife. They were pissed. I didn't even have to say anything to them. They were pissed. And as we were leaving, he started to, when we got in the car, he started to argue with me. He was mad that I was upset about it. I didn't even say anything to him. I was talking to our cousin, the one that was married to my cousin. I was talking to her and she was like, what's going on, cuz? Like, why you didn't? I'm like, girl, I think this man really want to leave me. And so she's like, oh my gosh, but we're whispering. We're talking off to the side. Everybody's having their own private conversations. That's what me and her is talking about. So when we got in the car, he asked, what were you and cuz talking about? And I was like, yeah, we were just talking.
So she's talking to everybody except her husband. Right? You see how you see the setup? He can't win. He can't win. He can't win. But if the laws are different and there's no, you know, if the state doesn't hold him in their obligations, she wouldn't be talking like this. She would be talking to her husband, as opposed to talking to the court of public opinion, building a coalition to roast him. So I wanted to play that clip for a reason, right? Because I wanted to get into a different clip. And I wanted to get into my brother over here, who I like a lot. Jason Wilson, my brother. Salute to this brother. Shalom. He's a good brother. He does good content. But he's been married for 25 years. I've been married. He's been married. He's been married for 25 years. He's going to give a perspective of a virtuous woman. But again, we get to the conversation of how men need to be better. Right? But men are not the one filing for divorces most of the time. Maybe unique situations occur. Salute to Jason Williams, because I like what he does with the young men. But he's going to base everything on a religious perspective, but women are Christian feminists. And he doesn't understand because this is what they call, he hit the Hail Mary. He hit that Hail Mary baseball hit, and he's put in the work himself. And he found himself a woman. So he has not been in the dating scene in over 25 years. Way before the social media really got out of hand. Way before the women went totally insane on social media. They were still getting that, right? But there were still some gems out here. There's some gems out here. But he scored his home run long time ago. So let's continue on. I want you to listen to his perspective. I respect this brother, but I disagree with him on many perspectives.
Able to express those emotions when they start, instead of saying, so as men, if we're able to express those emotions when they start, instead of saying I'm angry or pissed off, say, babe, it hurts me every time you challenge my integrity, or you don't trust me with financial decisions when I've never made a mistake so far.
Yeah.
When you express it that way, or I'm just trying to be a better father than my dad was, would you mind showing me some patience? Now your wife can, instead of being here, if we're yelling, you can drop your guard and open your heart, and we can connect at that level. But typically we go from 0 to 100 and we
Real
express
quick.
anger because it feels safe.
Yeah.
For us to say, babe, I'm hurting, or I'm sad, I'm depressed. It also, I believe, prohibits men from marrying the women that they truly desire, because we've been conditioned to wear a facade or wear a mask and never show our women Bruce Wayne. They can only see Batman.
Yeah.
When you get married, you know, you're going to see my flaws.
But okay.
Again, I respect this brother and a lot of his perspectives. But what women are he talking about? That's not what's happening in these marriages and these relationships. I think what's happening generally in these relationships are that the men are doing those things, you know, and the men are getting ignored because the women are not listening to the man. They're listening to the sisterhood or the court of public opinion. Because what happens nowadays in the modern marriage is not just the man and the woman. The man, the woman, the state, all of her friends, the court of public opinion, social media, and all of these different distractions. Old feminist single aunts, single friends with color purple narrative, feminist narrative in their brain. There's all kinds of voices in that woman's ears, talking to her, telling her, exactly. Vegas Dave, you nailed it. Like they don't, I think he does a lot of good work, but what he does is he straddles the line. And he comes from a religious perspective, right? I think his intentions are good. But this is a different type of woman that he's talking about. We get back into the fundamental crux of the conversation, which is this: why men need to be better. It always ends back up to the problems that's going on in the dating and relationship spectrum. It's because of men's failure to be men. And there are some men that need some help and men that need some work. But I don't think that's what it is, as opposed to women have changed. Women have morphed into something totally different than maybe what our grandmothers used to be. The influence of social media. So they have changed. And men are still holding off to the past like it's 1950s out here. And then we have guys that have been married for 20, 30 years who met their wives 30 years ago before women had these in their face. Because I can remember back even in the 90s when I got married in the 90s. Didn't have any of that crap. We had the beepers. You can page somebody and maybe they can get to a payphone and give you a call or something. I think it wasn't until the late 90s we got into the cell phones and stuff. And you're talking about having Facebook and all that stuff up like that. We weren't really kicking into social media like that. So now it's a whole different environment. It's completely, totally different now. Let me go ahead and switch it over.
You got to rewind this, Jason, because you said some men are not marrying who they really want to be with because of their emotions. So you got to dive into that.
All right. Well, me working with a lot of men that want to get married, desire it, it's their fear of being exposed for not being this stoic 24/7.
Yeah.
And so
That's not it. That's not it. That's not it. I'm not even going to listen to any more of this. Their fear of being exposed, as opposed to a legal system that's highly designed to reward women for leaving marriages, getting divorced, laws that are unfair. See, he glosses over the unfair laws in this country, or the laws governing marriage, because marriage is controlled by the state, not the church. In the West, in America, divorces are not handled at the church level. They're handled at the state level. Now it's become an emotional thing. These men are not in touch with their emotion or scared to be vulnerable, as opposed to the laws themselves that puts a tremendous amount of unfair advantage in the favor of a woman. And then guys turn around and adapt to the laws, and they become like Oprah, some guys, not like Tyrese, and they start changing the laws in their own life, and then these people have a problem with them. And now the conservatives are, "Hey, you sinful heathens, you didn't pray hard enough." Ignore the laws. Don't focus on the laws. And which is crazy because a lot of the things they talk about, I agree with. You know, it's crazy to think that, you know, in a utopian world where, where the laws don't matter and the church and spiritual beliefs takes precedence over that. Well, how is that working out for them? What's the guy's name? Schroeder. I forgot what his name was. Find it in a second. But I did a video on it a little while back. Steven Crowder. Sorry, Vegas Dave. Thank you very much, Vegas Dave. Steven Crowder, right? I remember Steven Crowder. Remember when he did this interview?
And Nick DiPaolo in third chair in a little bit, but needed to take a moment here to address some issues out there that are circulating. It's never fun, but well, I guess let me be clear here. I have been living with a proverbial boot on my neck for going on years now. Since 2021,
fair use.
I've been living through what has increasingly been a horrendous divorce. Now, let me say on the outset, to be clear, there is no infidelity, any kind of physical abuse at all on either side. And no, this was not my choice. My then wife decided that she didn't want to be married anymore. And in the state of Texas, that is completely permitted. It's been the most heartbreaking experience of my life, what I consider to be my deepest personal failure. And just so you know, my opinions on parenting and families have not changed.
But remember when Stephen was going after the red pill and all these other, remember when he was going after the red pill, men's content, calling men all kinds of names? But then what happened now is he got a little taste of that, you know, what it's like to actually go through what these men went through.
I've always believed that children need a mom and a dad, that divorce is horrible. And I still believe that children need a mom and a dad and that divorce is horrible. But in today's legal system, my beliefs don't matter. In Texas, divorce is permitted when one party wants it, period. So for well over a year, in the best interest as well as physical safety of my children, we've decided to keep this issue private and to resolve it privately with the appropriate attorneys, what have you, legal jargon. Now, in all this, one thing I want to be really clear about is certain. True north here is that my children are blameless, completely without fault. And so we decided to resolve these issues privately, as it's in their best interests, both emotionally and physically, to do so. Now, the other issue is, and this is something that I've kept private for likely far too long, many other people knew about this behind the scenes. Some, not all, but some of them in positions of power, influence, leverage, knew of this. They also knew that the safety of my children included keeping it private. So if you're familiar with the...
So what we see here with Steven Crowder, and like I said, I respect a lot of his content, is the saying, he who feels it knows it. He who feels it knows it. These men have not experienced any of the things that Steven Crowder is experiencing. They don't understand it. They're not experiencing what Steve has experienced. So they have an opinion based upon a utopian existence. Now, Steve is understanding what men are talking about because he's going through it, and he was having his character assassinated, which is the phase of marriage where the woman builds a coalition against the man. So he was living a utopian religious existence, but his divorce is not being handled in the church where he has power, where he has support. It's been handled in the court of law and, of course, in the court of public opinion where he has no power. So no matter what religious or spiritual, systems are in place in a Western democracy like America, the court system and the rule of law prevails, not the church. And let's continue on. And like I said, he who feels it knows it.
The idea of extortion, then you know the feeling well. Now, some of these threats were so thinly veiled that I'm frankly surprised you didn't all guess immediately.
Stephen has a lot going on, I guess is the best way to say it. He has a lot going on, and that should be clear because people don't do stuff like this if there's not a lot going on in their lives. I would like to implore my audience and everybody that isn't paying attention to this situation not to condemn him, but to pray for him. Sometimes people need a prayer. Sometimes people need a scripture. Stephen purports to be a Christian. I am unsure at this moment if it is my place to say more than that. Maybe if I feel in further defense, some things should be said, or maybe if I feel that the public has a right to understand certain circumstances.
Oh, my children have a right to privacy. Now, some other issues have been, or I should say, inferences have been more pernicious behind the scenes with demands and threats to use this information that they believe would be so publicly embarrassing to me and my wife at a difficult time that it could be used, knowingly putting my children in harm's way. So to those self-styled Christians, conservatives, and allies, well, not in my book. Now, if you find yourself, I don't want to get into details, so this is going to likely be the only time I have to address this or want to address this. If you're asking yourself, hey, did X person or did Y person know? The answer is likely yes.
So he's having to fight because the woman in his life, the church has taken her side. They've taken her side because any allegations of abuse is going to be taken very seriously in a modern time. The church predominantly has a larger percentage of women, and to women donate money to the church as well as the men. Probably men donate the most, but there's more women that can donate money long term to the church. The church is not going to lose favor with the women in the church for Steven Crowder. They're not. So automatically those individuals started questioning him. And let's continue on.
Which will be made alarmingly clear as this process of discovery continues. And it also, by the way, makes me that much more appreciative of those who did know about this and in understanding the best interests of my family, my children, kept their word and used discretion. I can't thank you enough. Sincerely, I appreciate it. Won't forget it. It's pretty simple. I loved a woman so much that I married her. A woman who, despite all of this, I still love as the mother of my children. And she wanted something else for her life. That's not my choice. She simply wanted out, and the law says that that's how it works. Now, of course, look, I get it. There are multiple sides to every story, but one thing that is undeniable in this case is that it's no one's fault but my own in that I picked wrong, and that's certainly not the fault of my children. And I will say that what's in the best interest of my children is not internet drama, speculation, certainly not blatant or veiled shakedowns or dragging their father or mother, and I can't be clear on that enough, or their mother through the mud. And to anyone who tries it, I'm no longer going to pacify, capitulate, or sidestep because I love them a whole lot more than I love you. And I will continue to do whatever is necessary to protect my children. Discussing the divorce any further on social media or on this show or in any public space is not what's best for them. I'll be handling this through the proper legal avenues and channels available as a matter of record in which I have more than full confidence.
He has to jump on the grenade. He had to jump on the grenade. Damage control. Basically, he has to battle this in the court of law, not in the church. Not in the church. No matter what they say, you're going to have to battle in the court of law, not the church. He has to fight in the church.
So I'd ask that you understand the need for and respect our privacy in what is obviously a pretty tough time. And I hope that none of this has to go any further than that. Now, on with the reason you're all actually here.
So, another one bites the dust in the religious spectrum. Let's move right along. And one of the divorces people never really talk about is this good old, Shinyu marriage that Doug Christie got involved in. The power couple dynamic that we see promoted out here so much on in these spaces, finding those that are equally yoked and, older woman that has been through the ringers and now you get married late term. Some of these guys think, you know what? She's older, she's mature, it's going to be a power couple. But Doug Christie is going through hell. Remember Doug Christie from the Nets? I think he was at the Sacramento Kings for a while. Very talented guy. Never really was a front runner in terms of minutes and whatever. Played good defense. Very talented. Did a lot of show and practice. A lot of it didn't translate to the game sometime. But I like Doug Christie. He's a good guy. He's a coach of the Sacramento Kings now. Remember what happened to him in his marriage. Very easy.
But telling the truth. I heard her say it, and I repeated it. I'm grown, and I do what I want. You know who I am. I'm Jackie Christie. That ain't gonna change.
Just when we thought Jackie Christie and Doug Christie's divorce was calming down, things took a sharp turn. Jackie didn't just file for divorce. She hit Doug with a jaw-dropping $300 million lawsuit for spousal support. But here's where it gets messy. The case was dismissed, and some are saying Doug might have played a role in it. So, what really happened? Why did Jackie demand such a massive payout? And how did Doug manage to get the case thrown out? We're breaking it all down. Every shocking twist, every legal move, and the real reason this marriage is crumbling in front of our eyes. But before we get into the lawsuit, let's rewind and see how their strong marriage turned into this legal war.
One of these lunatic jughead
Fair use. Let's continue.
simple had the audacity to say what?
That you were caught shooting some back in 1987 or something back in the day.
Ask me, and I'll tell you no. I done a lot, okay? But if prostitution ain't one.
For many years, Jackie and Doug Christie were seen as the NBA couple. Their love story was one of the few in the basketball world that seemed unshakable. They weren't just married, they were inseparable. From the public's perspective, they had a level of commitment that was rare in the industry. Jackie was always by Doug's side, attending every game, handling business affairs, and making sure their marriage stayed intact. Meanwhile, Doug was known for his unwavering loyalty to her.
See, the music is playing. So he said it's a business. Women in the state, do you think you're going to come out clean? Good luck. I totally agree, brother. But this got messy real quick. You're talking about fraud, stealing money, taking money, putting in all kinds of offshore accounts, accusing him of everything under the sun to discredit him and destroy his character. It turned out positive and well for him. I'm concerned about the music in the background in this video. That's why I slowed it down a little bit. But it comes down to everything is tried in the court of law, not in the church. Not in the church. And that's why I put there are no solutions, there are only trade-offs. You know? And again, she's trying to cash out. She wants out of the situation. She tries to destroy his character and demonize him. Right? And it gets messy. Real messy. Let's continue on.
Even making headlines for avoiding eye contact with other women as a sign of respect for his wife. But behind closed doors, things weren't as perfect as they seemed. Over the years, whispers started to circulate that their relationship was more controlling than loving. Some even claimed Jackie was too overprotective, micromanaging every aspect of Doug's life. At first, these were just rumors, until things took a turn. The biggest shock came when Jackie publicly accused Doug of cheating. This wasn't just any accusation, it directly challenged the foundation of their relationship, which had always been built on trust and loyalty. For years, Jackie had painted a picture of their love as unbreakable, but suddenly she was making claims that suggested otherwise. People were left wondering, was Doug really unfaithful, or was this just another layer of their complicated marriage? Either way, this was the beginning of their downfall, and what Jackie did next took things to a whole new level. After their marriage took a hit, Jackie made a bold move. She filed a $300 million lawsuit against Doug for spousal support. Her argument? She had dedicated her life to his career, putting her own ambitions aside to support him, and now she felt she deserved financial compensation for those sacrifices. Jackie claimed that without her, Doug's success wouldn't have been possible. She had managed his career, handled business deals, and built their public brand together. To her, this lawsuit wasn't just about money. It was about recognizing her contributions and ensuring she wasn't left empty-handed after all the years she invested in their relationship. But the courts didn't see it that way.
$300 million. $300 million lawsuit. All of these accusations now, no evidence of cheating, none of this stuff. Now she's trying to cash out. Then she was talking about how unbreakable their love was. But now she wants the $300 million. It must be breakable in some regards because she's trying to get paid.
Judge dismissed her case almost instantly, leaving many to wonder what went wrong. How could such a high-stakes lawsuit get shut down so fast? Turns out Doug came prepared with receipts. He reportedly provided evidence that dismantled Jackie's case, showing that her claims didn't hold up legally. Whether it was financial records, text messages, or legal documents, whatever Doug presented in court was enough to get the case thrown out. This left Jackie in a tough spot. Not only was her lawsuit dismissed, but now the narrative had shifted. Instead of seeing her as a wronged wife fighting for justice, many started questioning whether this was a last-ditch effort to secure a payout. And just when people thought the drama was over, Doug made a move that no one saw coming.
You're right, but you better keep your ass in that seat tramp. That's what you better do. You're right, Dumbo ears. Yeah, I got a lot of husbands about these ears, bitch. Get a husband. That 48-year-old been working, bitch. You right. Retire.
Just when it looked like Jackie might have a solid case, Doug's legal team pulled out the ultimate trump card, her financial records. In a shocking move, they presented documents that completely shattered Jackie's claims of financial hardship. The records showed that Jackie wasn't just surviving, she was thriving. She had multiple investments, successful business ventures, and a substantial amount of money in her accounts. Despite her lawsuit painting her as a woman left in financial ruin, the evidence suggested otherwise. Doug's team argued that Jackie was far from broke and didn't need the massive spousal support she was demanding. They highlighted that she had built a strong brand of her own, with businesses ranging from real estate to entertainment projects. In other words, Jackie wasn't dependent on Doug's money, she had plenty of her own. With these revelations, the court quickly dismissed her case. The judge ruled that Jackie had no grounds to claim she was financially struggling, especially not to the tune of $300 million. It was a major blow to Jackie's case, and the court's decision sent a clear message. This lawsuit wasn't going anywhere. As soon as the news broke, social media went wild. Fans and critics alike weighed in, questioning Jackie's true intentions. Was she really seeking justice for her years of sacrifice, or was this just a strategic move to secure a massive payout? And while some of her supporters still backed her, many started seeing this lawsuit in a different light. If she wasn't actually struggling, then why file the lawsuit in the first place? Was this just a money grab? But if you thought Jackie was about to back down, think again, because she was just getting started. As the backlash grew, Jackie found herself in the middle of a PR storm. What was supposed to be a fight for financial justice quickly turned into a public debate about her credibility.
But it doesn't end right there. This is where it gets nasty. And again, character assassination. It's the same strategy. It's the same strategy. Steven Crowder went through it. Johnny Depp went through it. The lady in the front, the first video I showed, the guy who's in that relationship is going through it. By the time they're done with the guy, he's going to be the worst monster on the planet. It's a whole strategy. Tear him down, then go for the money. Come out and make yourself a victim. Usually these women end up in the church and they're like doing this on Sundays. They'll end up with the religious stuff on Sundays, shaking their hands. They've found Jesus. Watch. You listen to her in about a year. She'll be at some church with the rest of them, and you'll think that she is a saint. Oh, they all in there. Oh my God, the retired 304s. You go to the church nowadays, you'll be like, y'all are all here. Rebranded themselves, looking for a new husband, looking for a new sucker. Some sucker get into a relationship with her on some religious, spiritual stuff. Don't realize that he just married a demon. It's crazy. Let's continue on.
ability. Legal experts weighed in, with some pointing out that her case was doomed from the start. Without clear proof that she was financially dependent on Doug, there was never a solid legal argument for such a massive spousal support claim. Some even suggested that her lawyers should have never filed the case in the first place. And then came the biggest blow. Doug's legal team clapped back. They issued a public statement suggesting that Jackie's lawsuit was never about financial hardship, but rather a strategic PR move. According to them, this was all about staying in the spotlight and keeping her name relevant. With the drama unfolding, the internet erupted with reactions. The hashtag Jackie Christie trended across social media as people picked sides. Some defended her, saying she was just trying to get what she deserved after years of standing by Doug's side. Others called her out, accusing her of manipulating the system to secure a payout she didn't actually need. A person commented saying, "I honestly can't believe Jackie thought she would get $300 million. She's doing all this just to stay relevant. If she was really struggling financially, why not just keep it quiet and not make it worse?" Another one added, "Doug's legal team totally owned her with those financial records. Honestly, this was just a desperate attempt at a cash grab. She might have supported him, but come on, there's no way she's broke." But just when people thought this mess was dying down, Jackie threw fuel on the fire. She posted a cryptic message that left everyone guessing, and just like that, the drama was far from over.
I don't want to keep doing this. I think it's beneath me. The truth was put out there. You hear my side and that person's side. And here we are having to address it yet again. Despite all the accusations, I still hold out hope that we can move on like grown women.
Just when it seemed like Jackie was out of moves, she dropped a cryptic message on social media that had everyone talking. In a now deleted post, she wrote, "The truth will come out, just wait." That one sentence sent speculation into overdrive. Was she planning to appeal the court's decision? Did she have more dirt on Doug that she was holding back? Or was this just her way of keeping the drama alive? Many people believe Jackie isn't the type to back down easily. After all, she's built her brand on being outspoken, and letting this lawsuit go without a fight wouldn't exactly be in her nature. But does she actually have a legal leg to stand on? Opinions are divided on whether Jackie can make a comeback in court.
And by the way, the dating and relationship market, the current dating relationship market is flooded with women like her. There are many of them. It's a floodgates of them. Getting out of divorces, the great divorce is the biggest divorce right now. But they're everywhere. Looking for that round two, that second guy, or that third guy to carry them off into the sunset. And they want to be married again on their terms. And they're out here competing with the younger women for men. And these are the women who are actually sabotaging the young women to keep them from making decisions or making better decisions in their youth. And again, I'm gonna let you guys see how this finishes out, but we're going to get into the dialogue. So at the end of the day, at the end of the rainbow, we come back with the legal issue that's here, which is that fortunate for her, she had resources that, and I'm sure she's going to try and hide them or try and argue another, because she's not going to let him go whole. She wants to strip him of something, inflict pain upon him, strip him of his resources before he goes. He's not going to be better after her, is her objective. And that's a lot of objective for a lot of women in divorces. You're not going to be with me again and be better for some other woman. She's really trying to strip him of the resources because she doesn't want another woman to benefit from it. So let me take everything I can out of him so he can't take this over to and live a good life with another woman. What it really comes down to.
Some legal analysts say her case was so weak from the start that an appeal wouldn't change anything. The court ruled that she wasn't financially dependent on Doug, and unless she can bring new evidence proving otherwise, there's little chance of overturning the decision. However, others believe she might attempt a different legal strategy. Instead of pushing for another round in court, Jackie could try to negotiate a private settlement with Doug. If she can prove that she contributed to his success in a way that wasn't properly compensated, she might have a case to get a financial settlement outside of court. But that raises another question. Would Doug even entertain that idea? Unlike Jackie, Doug has stayed completely silent about the lawsuit. No statements, no interviews, no cryptic posts. Some say that's because he's just relieved it's over. Others believe he doesn't want to give Jackie any more publicity. If Doug believes Jackie was just trying to cash in, he's unlikely to offer her a private settlement. But if he just wants this whole situation to go away, he might be willing to settle behind closed doors to avoid further media attention. One thing's for sure, this isn't over yet. Whether it's another legal move, a tell-all interview, or more social media posts, Jackie isn't walking away quietly.
I brought you $20 whole, and you better take this mother money. Anybody got a Molly up in here? Anybody got a Molly for this bitch? Let me find my $20. Hold on, unwrinkle that for me, will you, OG? Let me put my lipstick back in my purse, because this...
Oh, my God. You talk about the ghetto in that one. Imagine being married to that woman, man. You know, it's crazy, man. It's crazy. It's crazy. Absolute madness. So Doug Christie had to deal with this hell. And again, unfortunately, he's vindicated himself, man. It's crazy, right? Yeah, you can't make this crap up. Again, we get back to the legal system. The laws are not changing. The laws are not changing. The laws are not changing. It's just the way it is. It's an unbalanced, unfair contract. No matter what all good intentions or what your spirituality is or what your religion is, it's the legal system itself that needs to be overhauled and restructured to match the modern day times, modern day women, modern day men, and the society out here with social media and many distractions and many pressures out here. I think, and inevitably, I think they got to make marriage hard to get into, make it very difficult to get married. I mean, to the point where you have to have multiple signatures and reports and all kinds of stuff and contracts, and just make it unprofitable to get divorced or, you know, to get into a marriage for the wrong reasons. Until they change the laws, I don't understand what these conversations are about. And I understand the biblical religious perspective, but the conversations are like, well, what are the changes in the laws? Oh, none? Okay. Great. Play Russian roulette. What's your future? And I think that's the decision that a lot of men have to face. And, you know, yeah, I think so too. Yeah, Vegas Day. Yeah. I don't think any laws. Well, it's gotten bad now. I mean, like, what is it now? The numbers per 1,000. What is it now? Like what? A small percentage. Marriage rate per 1,000 is low now. So they did it at 6.2. So it had like 6.2 per 1,000 Vegas Day. So the numbers are the marriage rate was 6.2 per 1,000 in 2022. So it's like going down like drastically. I mean, maybe the affluent people are getting married, but in general, now you go by the church, man, you got a whole bunch of single, divorced women, baby mamas. You got everything in that damn church. You're like, what? The worst is the rehabilitated 304s or the 304 religious grifters. The 304 religious grifters are the worst when you go to the church. You know, it is bad over there. I mean, it really has gone bad. I mean, you can listen to what they're saying, and I mean, it's like I that's why, like I said, I came up with that video, "Faith Talkers, Sinful Walkers: An Epidemic of Religious Gaslighting," for that reason. Because they're talking about things to fix the problem outside of the laws, which are never going to change. And they're not even focusing on the young people, the 18 to 30-year-olds. They have old women, Shinyu women, past the 30th and 35th birthday, still talking about marriage because they're still single. They're still single looking for a man. But some of them have kids by other men. They have all kinds of baggage going on, a lot of trauma, a lot of sexual experiences and everything else like that. But they're hoping to religious a man into marriage. You know, that was my past and I found the Lord and we should get married. Ignore the fact that I have 3 babies by 3 different baby daddies and I've slept with 100 men. I've been reborn, revirginated. Vegas Dave, MJ, Dark Green, all you brothers, they have been revirginated, cleansed. They've been cleansed of their sins. And they're ready for round number 3 or 2 or 3 of marriage or long-term relationships. And they're saying, that's you. And so that's really where we are. You know, he said, that don't work anymore. I believe you, man. Them dudes is out. I mean, like, I see these brothers, like, Sundays I go exercise in the park, right? And these brothers be up in the park walking. I'm like, yo, there's a lot of dudes out here. They don't be in church on Sundays. There's a lot of dudes out here in this park, walking, exercising, getting their fitness right. You know, like, yo, do we go to church no more? It's tough, you know. It's a difficult environment, man. You know, there's no solutions, really. You just got to pick a pathway. You can either, I don't have the answers. Either you jump on the grenade and take one for the team because life. He said, 0 chance, young brothers. Oh, the young dudes, hell no. Hell no. Them young brothers, yeah, you're right, man. 0 chance young brothers will fall for that level. The church is a matriarchy. A lot of us don't want to be involved. Yeah, them young brothers, man. Oh, man. I got 2 of them. I know. They ain't falling for that at all. Like, yo, you going? No, Dad. No, man. No. I'm like, okay, I understand. Gen Z, you can forget it. Gen Z is not going in that building. And when they get old enough, they start getting over 18 and stuff like that. They can't just be forced to go in there. They go off to college. They don't even want to come back home. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Brother Ren, you said it right. Yeah, it's Yeah. But they just trying to see, they can't get into a marriage or relationship based on virtues or real value. So what they try to do is religious men into marriage, because they can always use the scriptures to try and get men to conform to taking women that have been ran through or vigorously enjoyed over the years. Because now they're going to hit you with the religious doctrine of sin and forgiveness and all this other stuff. And people have changed and we've been cleansed in the spiritual water and the birth of the Lamb. All kinds of things they're going to hit you with. You're going to be like, whoa. Maybe I should take this retired 304 as a wife. She's a different woman now. Then come to find out, she pounding multiple men in your house while you at work because the spirit has worn down. And now you're like, damn, what's this? You end up like Joe Smith. He married a 304. And the whole, his whole house fell down because by default, they went back and doing what they was doing before. And it becomes a catastrophe, man. So with that being said, man, I've been on the stream over an hour. We get back to the real reality of it. What is the trade-off? What is the trade-off that men are willing to make? What are the trade-off? Yeah, Chuck, you say pass it and beat them cheeks too. It's terrible, man. So what is the trade-off? I say peace is the new wealth for men. Pick it. Pick your lane. Because there is no answer. You got to pick your lane. Where you going to go, how you going to live. I can tell you one thing for certain, though. Self-preservation is a necessity in these times. And I always talk about on this channel, nobody takes care of you like you. And we talk all the time about letting peace and happiness trickle down from you. Trying to get men to prioritize ourselves first is very difficult because our nature is altruistic. Our nature. What happens when men get money? They think about how they can make the lives of everybody around them better. Women get money, they think about themselves. Most of them. Not all, but most of them think about themselves. What do? We buy houses for family. We don't buy houses for ourselves. When we want to buy a house, when I bought this place with my family in mind. I was in a relationship. My kids were young at the time. I bought this place with my family in mind, not my selfish own self. These women are buying houses for themselves. When I bought my car with my family in mind. I may have a toy on the side. So we do things with our family in mind. So we have to program ourselves to be self-preservative. Exactly. Yeah. You're right. You say, yeah, I've been called selfish for keeping everything I've earned to myself. My question is, selfish to who? The matriarch? Exactly. But they ain't selfish. They everything they do for themselves, they ain't selfish. Because they expect us to be altruistic and hand over everything to them. And all they talk about in relationships is if you listen to these podcasts, they only talk about what we need to be doing for them. Never about what we should be receiving. Always about what we need to be doing for them. You need to be better for them. You need to give money to them. You need to do things for them. Them. Never about us. Everything is failing as men, Men, what men are not doing, why men are not making more, what men need to be doing better for them, how men could be making their lives better. It's a constant, So, well, with that being said, let me get out of here. It's lunchtime. Peace and blessings to you guys. Thanks for watching the stream. We'll talk more. And I'm out.